फर्स्ट फीमेल डायरेक्टर ऑफ एम्स आज हमारे साथ हैं। कि आपने बहुत ही आज़ादी के बाद वाले भारत को बहुत करीब से देखा है, उस समय की चुनौतियाँ क्या थी?
उस समय नई आज़ादी मिली थी और अभी कुछ स्टेबलाइज नहीं हुआ था। द ब्रिटिश लेफ्ट अस लूटेड।
उस टाइम के भारत में जो आज़ाद हुआ था और आज का जो नया भारत है, आप उसे कैसे देखते हो?
उस ज़माने के लोग और मैं भी ब्रिटिश एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन से बहुत इम्प्रेस्ड थे।
ना कि जॉब में फर्स्ट डे इतनी बड़ी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी मिली, उस इंसिडेंट के बारे में आप बताइए।
लेटी हुई प्राइम मिनिस्टर, soaked in blood and bullets, and you could not recognize her apart from her grey hair.
Why you choose like radiology?
There was no woman who was doing radio.
Okay. फर्स्ट फीमेल डायरेक्टर ऑफ एम्स आज हमारे साथ हैं बोल स्काई पर। आज 15 अगस्त के मौके पर हम उनसे बातें करेंगे हमारे आज़ादी के बाद वाले भारत की और नए भारत के बारे में। मैम, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है बोल स्काई पर। और मुझे बहुत खुशी हो रही है आपसे मिलकर, मुझे मौका मिला है कि मैं आपसे बात करूं, क्योंकि जितना आज़ादी में नेताओं का हाथ था, हमारे स्वतंत्रता सेनानियों का हाथ था, उतना ही हाथ हमारी फीमेल्स का भी था। और उसके बाद जो हुआ, उसके बाद जो घटित हुआ, वो इतिहास बना और आपने इतिहास बनाया है। तो इन सब मौक़ों के बारे में मैं आपसे बात करना चाहती हूँ। मैम, मेरा फर्स्ट आपसे जो क्वेश्चन है कि आपने बहुत ही आज़ादी के बाद वाले भारत को बहुत करीब से देखा है, उस समय की चुनौतियाँ क्या थी?
उस समय नई आज़ादी मिली थी और अभी कुछ स्टेबलाइज नहीं हुआ था। द ब्रिटिश लेफ्ट अस लूटेड।
Okay.
And we had to start from the beginning. So the first Prime Minister of India, Pandit Nehru, had decided that a few high-level institutions should be built.
Okay.
And he called them the temples of learning.
Okay.
And he chose Rajkumari Amrit Kaur as his first health minister.
Okay.
Because he thought that health and technology need a real boost, and we would take a long time to build these areas. So he made a start. And accordingly, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, who had served as Gandhiji's private secretary for 16 years, she now became the first health minister.
Okay.
And on taking charge of the health ministry, she talked to the heads of, at that time, 17 medical colleges
Okay.
were present in India.
Okay.
And she talked to them as to how we can increase the number of healers or doctors to bring health to everyone. That was her aim.
Okay.
And they told her that we do not have teachers
Okay.
who can expand the medical colleges. So she then decided that she would like to set up an institution where they not only are healers, but they are teachers as well as researchers.
Okay. Okay.
So that was the basis of starting the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. And for that, she took a world tour and asked countries to help us out in this. And you'll be surprised that none of the big names or the big countries offered any help. But a small country like New Zealand
Okay.
gave her a free hand, and I forget the number of dollars or pounds what they donated, but they got the All India Institute of Science going.
Okay.
And she toured the world to find out if she could get Indians, people of Indian origin who were spread all over the world, if she could ask them to come back and help her build a strong India.
Okay. Okay.
So, for her request, a number of doctors came back to India. The professor of cardiology came back from the United States and Boston with his American wife. The professor of anatomy with his American wife Keswani came back, and cardiology was Professor Sujoy B. Roy,
Okay.
who came back with his American wife.
Okay.
Then there were others. Professor of orthopedic surgery, who was a leader in Liverpool, he came back and started the orthopedic surgery department. Like that, there were others also who came back and helped build the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. And then she formed a committee to advise her as to how we should go about it.
Exactly.
And the committee then selected Dr. B.B. Dixit, who was a pharmacologist
Okay.
working in Mumbai at that time, Bombay, and they chose him to be the first director of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and he subsequently formed a local registration and selection committee so that they could start the institution.
Okay.
Medicine, teaching of medicine, is divided into a preclinical period, then a paraclinical, and then a clinical.
Okay.
So you have to start with the preclinical period. That is, you are just out of college and you can start working.
Okay.
So the preclinical means that you don't have the responsibility of treating or healing patients, but you have the responsibility of establishing science as the basis of medicine.
Okay.
So in that you have anatomy, physiology, pharmacology, bacteriology, pathology. These all come under. You don't have clinical responsibilities, that is healing patients, but you have the responsibility of setting up labs which will help the clinician to make diagnosis or confirm a diagnosis, and then you would start the hospital.
Okay.
So the first building that was started was the basic sciences or the preclinical building. And at that time, she also said that people should be situated on the campus.
Okay. Okay.
So they started building houses for faculty that would join. So with these basic preclinical workup, the AIIMS was started, and subsequently, that is in 1956.
Okay. Okay.
And the first foundation stone was laid in what is now the Gobind Ballabh Pant Hospital. And subsequently, it was shifted. They soon realized that there was not much space for expansion there. It was all built up. Then they decided they would move this to the present site where the All India Institute is located.
Okay. Okay.
So after that, the selection for the paraclinical, and subsequently in 59-60 the clinical faculty was selected.
Okay.
And as I said, she had charged us with the responsibility of healing, teaching and research.
Okay.
You cannot progress unless you have research. And we cannot create manpower if we don't have teachers.
Teachers.
And of course, health care, clinical health care, or as healers. Unfortunately, the load of clinical work soon surmounted in big numbers. And faculty that were chosen to do clinical work were really overloaded
Okay.
with clinical work.
Okay.
And research and teaching became secondary because clinical care cannot wait. The labs can wait, but clinical care cannot wait. So their first priority became spending so much time in clinical work, and whatever little time you have left, you can devote to teaching and research.
Okay.
So that was how AIMS was started.
Okay. So मैम सेकंड क्वेश्चन मेरा ये रहेगा कि किस उम्र में आपने सोचा कि आपको डॉक्टर बनना है और इसी फील्ड में जाना है?
जब पार्टीशन हुआ तो बहुत लोगों इंजरीज बहुत हुई, और my father, who was in the judicial service, he was asked to set up a camp and at the border, and that was Firozpur was the border.
Okay.
So he set up a refugee camp at the border and started receiving refugees, providing for their food, their health, and their accommodation, whatever they could do. So I was 17 at that time, 1947.
Okay.
And I went with him to the camp, and I saw so much of misery and injuries that I thought I should be doing something to help these people. And I had already, after my high school, decided that I was going to pursue science
Okay.
and not arts,
Okay.
right? So I had done what was called FSC at that time, that is a Fellow of Science, and that was what is 11 and 12 today.
Okay.
So you left school at 10th, that was matriculation, and then you joined college at 11 and 12. So 11 and 12 were college days.
Okay.
And I had, I was supposed to take the exam in 47, but because partition took place, the exam was postponed
Okay.
till 48.
Okay.
So I lost a year in that period, but I learned that I need to do, I had done science, I need to do medicine to be able to help the number of people that were getting injured and vomiting, diarrhea, traveling miles on foot to reach the border. So I thought I would want to do medicine as a career.
Okay. And you went London for studies.
Yes.
And there also आप पूरे क्लास में या कोर्स में फर्स्ट फीमेल थे उस ग्रुप में. सो वहाँ पर कितना चैलेंजिंग था आपके लिए?
आई थिंक मेरे लिए चैलेंजिंग नहीं था. आई ऑलवेज थॉट that girls can do as well as boys, and I did not feel in any way inferior to all the boys.
Okay.
I took it in my stride that I have come to learn here, and whether it is a woman or a man, a job has to be accomplished, and if a man can accomplish it, I can accomplish it.
Okay.
So that is the attitude I had. So I never felt nervous amongst all the boys.
In 1958 आपने हिस्ट्री क्रिएट किया एंड आप भारत की पहली फीमेल रेडियोलॉजिस्ट बनी. उस समय कैसा रिएक्शन था, कैसा सपोर्ट मिला आपको? बिकॉज पहली बार कुछ होना करना बहुत सारी रिएक्शंस देता है, तो उसके प्रो एंड कॉन्स किस तरीके से आपने हैंडल किए?
पहले तो मैं करेक्ट करूं कि I am not the first woman radiologist. मेरी बॉस जो थी लेडी हार्डिंग में, जब मैं इंग्लैंड से वापस आई तो मैंने लेडी हार्डिंग मेडिकल कॉलेज ज्वाइन किया, which was my alma mater. And the boss there was a woman. Because according to the conditions in which Lady Harding Medical College was set up, it was going to be a college for women, by women. So all the teachers in Lady Harding at that time were women.
Oh, very nice.
And that also, Lady Harding, Lord Harding was the Viceroy of India at that time. And that is after the capital shifted from Calcutta to Delhi, he was the Viceroy. And Lady Harding thought it was the correct time to establish a college only for women. And Delhi had no medical college, whereas Madras, Calcutta, Bombay, they all had medical colleges, but Delhi did not have a medical college. So she laid the foundation of the Lady Harding Medical College, and it started in 1916. Right? And as it was, the rules laid down were that will be exclusively for women. So my boss was a woman radiologist who also had been trained in England. But at that time, the radiology course was only 9 months. So by the time I went to England, the course had become 24 months. 24 months as only diagnosis. Whereas when she went, it was 9 months diagnosis and therapy as one subject. So things had advanced that much that it was now only diagnosis 2 years, 24 months, and only radiotherapy another 24 months. If you wanted to do both. So, but I had decided that I was going to do diagnosis. So therefore, my plan was to be in England for 24 months or 2 years.
So as you told us that after you saw people, injured people, and then you decided कि आपको डॉक्टर बनना है, then why you choose like radiology? What was your thought?
Yes, well, why I chose radiology was that at that time very few people like, and my boss was one example, but in all the medical colleges that were present at that time, there was no woman who was doing radiology. And after I graduated, basic MBBS, that's the time when you decide whether you want to start working as MBBS, or do you want to do a postgraduate degree and specialize in one subject or the other? So I decided that I need to specialize. And the question then arose was, what specialty? So I sat down and I had done, you have to do compulsory 1 year work
Okay.
before you can even register as an MBBS person wanting to practice medicine. So I had decided that I was going to specialize, and then I did what is called a SWOT analysis. SWOT means SWOT, your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities you have, and the threats you have.
Okay.
So I did an analysis, and after doing that analysis, I came to the conclusion that I could not do surgery to start with, because I always thought a surgeon is someone who is, tall, dark and handsome, and that is what a surgeon is to be.
Okay.
And I physically was petite and knew that I would never be able to do, I would not be able to attract patients as a woman surgeon.
Okay.
And my professor in Lady Hardinge, she was a woman surgeon, petite like me, and she did not attract many patients. So I excluded, I can't do surgery.
Okay.
Then medicine. I had decided my role model in medicine was Dr. Padmavati. She was a cardiologist.
Okay.
And I decided that I could not hear sounds of the heart like she could hear. So I thought if I become a cardiologist, I would not succeed. So I left medicine. Obstetrics and gynecology, I had seen so many injuries and knew that the population in India was a big negative point. So I decided I don't want to produce, have women produce babies and increase the population. So I'm not going to do obstetrics and gynecology.
Okay.
And then eyes and ENT, that is ear, nose, throat, there were two small parts of the body, but I wanted to diagnose the whole body.
Okay.
So I excluded that. So all the clinical subjects were excluded. And then I came to paraclinical, which was at that time pathology and radiology.
Okay.
Now pathology, I thought I would do pathology. I went to professor of pathology and she said they didn't have a vacancy. In 6 months' time, you'll have a vacancy, then I can take you.
Okay.
So, but in radiology, no one was doing radiology. So I thought this is a good time. I can do radiology. And since no one is doing it, there's no competition. And the chief, she offered me a position, which at that time would have been a registrar, which all my classmates were becoming registrars. She offered me a position called assistant to the professor,
Okay.
which was one step higher
Okay.
than a registrar. So I was getting a position higher than a registrar, and I decided I will continue to do radiology.
Okay. Okay. So, ma'am, my next question is in 1984, and आप एम्स की पहली महिला डायरेक्टर बनी और आपका फर्स्ट डे था वर्क पे. देन शायद कोई नहीं सोचता कि फर्स्ट डे ऑफ वर्क कैसा होगा, बट इस इंसिडेंट का आपने अपनी बुक में भी जिक्र किया है, द वुमेन हु रन एम्स. मैम ने बुक लिखी है, कोविड के बाद उन्होंने ये बुक लिखी और आई थिंक सबको पढ़नी चाहिए. और मैम ने वहाँ पे बहुत सारी ऐसी चीज़ें बताई हैं जो शायद अभी हमें, आपको, जो भी नए यंग एज के लोग हैं उनको बहुत इंस्पायर करेंगी। सो मैम, वो फर्स्ट डे आपका कैसा था, और जो रिएक्शन आप मतलब बुक पढ़ने के बाद मुझे लगा कि शायद फर्स्ट डे ऐसा किसी ने इमेजिन नहीं किया होगा अपना, कि जॉब में फर्स्ट डे इतनी बड़ी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी मिली और फर्स्ट डे ऐसा जाएगा। उस इंसिडेंट के बारे में आप बताइए, और मैम हो सके तो थोड़ा हिंदी इंग्लिश मिक्स कर दीजिए ताकि हमारा जो ऑडियंस है उसे पता चले कि एग्जैक्टली क्या हुआ था उस दिन।
जैसे मैंने बुक में लिखा है
जी।
फर्स्ट डे जो मीटिंग हो रही थी मेरी सिलेक्शन को, selection had been confirmed as director by Mrs. Gandhi, but since AIMS autonomous body थी तो ज़रूरी था कि इंस्टीट्यूट बॉडी की मीटिंग उसको कंफर्म करे। तो वो मीटिंग चल रही थी एंड ये मुझे पता था कि मीटिंग चल रही है और ये मीटिंग के बाद मुझे ऑर्डर्स मिल जाएंगे। तो मैं डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ रेडियोलॉजी, उस वक़्त मैं रेडियोलॉजी की हेड थी और मुझे एक्स्ट्रा रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी प्रीवियस डायरेक्टर ने दी थी टू बी चेयरमैन ऑफ द हॉस्पिटल मैनेजमेंट बोर्ड। तो उस चक्कर में मेरी मेडिकल सुपरिटेंडेंट से ये डिसीजन थी कि प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया, प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ इंडिया, वाइस प्रेसिडेंट एंड हेल्थ मिनिस्टर, ये लोग मैं रिसीव करूँगी, बाकी सब जो कोई आता है आप रिसीव कर। ये हमारी अंडरस्टैंडिंग थी। और मैं उस दिन मॉर्निंग में डिपार्टमेंट में कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग केस स्टूडेंट्स के साथ डिस्कस कर रही थी। 9 बजे के करीब जो मॉर्निंग शुरू होती है, तो मैंने उस वक़्त एक रेडियोग्राफर भागा हुआ आया और कहने लगा कि मैडम प्राइम मिनिस्टर कैजुअल्टी में आई है। और हमने देखा कि मेडिकल सुपरिटेंडेंट भाग रहा है कैजुअल्टी की तरफ। तो मैंने कहा ये हो नहीं सकता कि अगर प्राइम मिनिस्टर बिना सिक्योरिटी के हमें इंफॉर्मेशन मिलने के बाद ही आती हैं, तो ये हो नहीं सकता, कुछ गड़बड़ है। तो मैं किससे पूछूं, मैं सीधा कैजुअल्टी ही चली जाती हूँ देखने के लिए कि क्या बात है, मेडिकल सुपरिटेंडेंट कैजुअल्टी क्यों भाग रहा है। तो कैजुअल्टी रेडियोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट में के पास ही है, उस वक़्त भी कैजुअल्टी। तो मैं सीधा ये बच्चों को पढ़ा रही थी, मैंने कहा तुम लोग काम करो, मैं कैजुअल्टी जा रही हूँ। मैं कैजुअल्टी गई। जिस वक़्त मैंने कैजुअल्टी का दरवाज़ा खोला तो देखा कि आर के धवन और फौतेदार, आर के धवन प्राइम मिनिस्टर के प्राइवेट सेक्रेटरी थे और फौतेदार शायद इंफॉर्मेशन एंड ब्रॉडकास्टिंग मिनिस्टर के चीफ थे। तो मैंने देखा कि धवन और फौतेदार कैजुअल्टी के बाहर वाले कमरे में खड़े हैं और ज़ोर ज़ोर से रो रहे हैं। ये क्या हो गया है? और फिर मैं कैजुअल्टी के अंदर गई तो रेजिडेंट्स नॉर्मली कैजुअल्टी में होते हैं, सीनियर लोग तो बैठते नहीं हैं कैजुअल्टी में फुल टाइम। तो मैं कैजुअल्टी के अंदर गई और 2 रेजिडेंट बैठे हुए थे शॉक्ड। तो मैंने कहा वेयर इज़ द प्राइम मिनिस्टर? तो उन्होंने ऐसे करके उंगली लगाई दी और एक ट्रॉली बिना शीट के लेटी हुई प्राइम मिनिस्टर, soaked in blood and bullets, and you could not recognize her apart from her grey hair. So when you saw the grey streak of grey hair that she had, this is the Prime Minister. I was shocked. I asked the boys, 2 boys, I said, what have you done? So they said, we have called the surgeons from the operation theatre. I said, "ठीक है." And within a couple of minutes, 2 surgeons came from the operation theatre. One general surgeon and one cardiac surgeon. And I said to them, "Please examine her. Can we do anything for her?" So the cardiac surgeon said, "We can try, we'll examine her." And then they quickly examined her. And then they said to me, "We can put her on a heart-lung machine and see if we can revive her. Right now she has no pulse, and they didn't take blood pressure at that time. She had no pulse. And she was all drenched. And there were bullets you could see on the chest, bullets on the trolley in which she was lying down. And when they turned over to examine her, bullets fell on the floor.
Oh.
There were bullets everywhere. So I said, "Then what are we waiting for? Let's take her to the operation theatre." And I also thought, since she has been shot and her body is all soaked in blood, our main job is to protect her body so that no one else comes. And we don't get a crowd here soon. So if we could quickly shift her into the operation theatre, which was on the 8th floor, और हम अगर इनको वहाँ safely ले जाए, तो doctors can do what they can do, and she will be safe because no one can enter the operation theatre. So I told Dr. Safaya, who was the medical superintendent, "Run and hold the lift. सुबह का टाइम है, OPDs busy हैं, और लिफ्ट में भी हमें टाइम लगेगा, तो भागो, लिफ्ट पकड़ो और हम आते हैं." So we quickly then pushed the trolley, took her up to the 8th floor. And the surgeons got to doing their job. She was B negative. Her blood group was B negative. And according to protocol, we had 2 bottles of B negative blood in the fridge, which was protocol we had to keep. And those 2 bottles finished very quickly because when they were injecting through the neck, the blood was oozing out through the holes the bullets had made. So then Dr. Safaya, the MS, got busy calling all hospitals in Delhi for O negative blood, which is a universal donor. Group O is negative are universal donors, collecting blood from all hospitals so that they could carry on if they could revive her, which they could not. So that was, then I thought, now meeting is going on.
Yes.
And to confirm my appointment. And I have to inform the meeting because the health minister, who is chairman of the institute body, he is over there in the meeting. So I then, after handing her over to the surgeons, I then moved to make a call to the director's office to say that this has happened and inform the health minister. So I called the director, and the office staff said to me that he's in a meeting. I said, "I know he's in a meeting, but this is urgent. Call him so that I can talk." So I told the director, I said, "Mrs. Gandhi has been shot. We have moved her to the operation theatre. Surgeons are at it, and I am informing." So they closed the meeting, and my appointment was not confirmed yet.
Okay.
So that they all came to the hospital. Naturally, health minister, all members of the institute body, they all came to the hospital just to see. And then the health minister, it was such a day that none of the people who could make decisions were in Delhi that day.
Okay.
Rajiv Gandhi was he was vice president of the Congress. He was on an election tour in the Northeast. Gyani Zail Singh, who was the president of India, he was in Middle East on a visit, and Alexander, who was secretary to the Prime Minister, he was in Bombay for a meeting. So these are the three people who would really make a final decision. All were out of town. So then the health minister informed the vice president, who was Venkata Raman at that time, and GP Partha Sarthi, who was advisor to Mrs. Gandhi.
Okay.
So they came to the institute and we arranged to make them sit comfortably. Dr. Tandon, who was the director then, he said to me, "You look after Sonia and I will clear the 7th floor pre-operative ward to expect all that political people and important people would be coming. So I'll do that and you take care of Sonia." So that is what happened.
So it was I must say, not a difficult day, it was a worst day to face.
It was a shocking
Shocking
day.
even, yeah.
Absolutely shocking. But decisions had to be made.
Yes.
And I was doing whatever it took.
So your job started with a difficult decision. So ma'am, so आपका जो भी पीरियड रहा एम्स के साथ, उसमें कई बार ऐसे डिफ़िकल्ट डिसीज़न आए होंगे जब आपने अपनी तरफ से पूरी कोशिश करी होगी और कभी चीज़ें नहीं हो पाती हैं, वो चीज़ें कैसे हैंडल करते थे आप वहाँ पर?
देखिए, इतना बड़ा इंस्टीट्यूट चलाने के लिए आप अकेले तो चला नहीं सकते। जी। तो आपको पूरी फैकल्टी की सपोर्ट चाहिए, तभी आगे काम हो सकता है। अगर फैकल्टी की सपोर्ट नहीं मिले तो कोई डिसीजन नहीं हो सकते। तो मेरा ये पॉइंट था कि फैकल्टी मेरे साथ होनी चाहिए, जो भी मैं करूं फैकल्टी। और अब पूरी एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के लिए राजकुमारी ने ये फैसला किया था कि एक डिप्टी डायरेक्टर एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन होगा जो कि डायरेक्टर को हेल्प करेगा, और जो डिप्टी डायरेक्टर एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है वो IAS का कोई मेंबर होगा। तो डिसीशंस जो हमें, जब हम पढ़ते हैं मेडिसिन, तो मैनेजमेंट तो हमें कोई नहीं सिखाता जी, एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन भी कोई नहीं सिखाता, लेकिन क्योंकि मैंने डिपार्टमेंट रन किया हुआ था तो कुछ तो मुझे डिसीजन मेकिंग करना ही पड़ता था। तो इसलिए मैं फेमिलियर थी कि डिसीजन मेकिंग में क्या क्या देखना है। जो डिसीजन कोई प्रॉब्लम है तो उसकी डिसीजन में पॉजिटिव पॉइंट्स क्या हैं और नेगेटिव पॉइंट्स क्या है। जब तक ये नहीं देखो तो आप फैकल्टी को भी नहीं समझा सकते कि क्या करना है। तो ये क्योंकि मैंने ऑलरेडी 10 साल हो गए थे, मुझे 14 साल एक्चुअली 12 साल, 72 से मैंने चार्ज लिया डिपार्टमेंट का और अब 84 था, 12 साल हो गए थे मुझे डिसीजन मेकिंग। तो और क्योंकि रेडियोलॉजी ऐसी सब्जेक्ट है कि अक्रॉस द फैकल्टी आपको कांटेक्ट करना पड़ता है। तो इसलिए फैकल्टी मुझे जानती थी और मैं फैकल्टी को जानती थी। अब मुझे 24 साल हो गए थे इंस्टीट्यूट में, तो फैकल्टी भी मुझे जानती थी, इसलिए फैकल्टी भी मुझे हेल्प करती थी डिसीजन मेकिंग।
इट्स अ होल टीम वर्क। देन कोविड हिट and at the age of 90 you decided to write your book. So ये आइडिया आपको कैसे आया? बिकॉज इतनी सारी बातें याद रखना, इतने इंसिडेंट, अपनी जर्नी को, और फिर आपने क्यों चूज़ किया कि नहीं मैं अब बुक लिखूंगी और मुझे ये करना चाहिए? मैम बस 3 दिन बाद 15th of August है, उस टाइम के भारत में जो आज़ाद हुआ था और आज का जो नया भारत है, आप उसे कैसे देखते हो? और आप क्या जो भी हमारी यंग जनरेशन आ रही है, उसे आप क्या मैसेज देना चाहते हो? बिकॉज यू आर अ स्ट्रॉन्ग पर्सनैलिटी, सो हमें आपसे बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिलेगा, बट एक मैसेज जो आप हमारे ऑडियंस को देना चाहें।
उस ज़माने के लोग और मैं भी ब्रिटिश एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन से बहुत इम्प्रेस्ड थे।
ओके।
अब हमें पता लग गया कि हम किसी पर डिपेंड नहीं कर सकते। हमने देश को इस्टेब्लिश करना एज अ स्ट्रॉन्ग कंट्री। एंड ये अब देखो जो अब का जनरेशन है, जिसको जनरेशन जी कहते हैं, मिलेनियम जनरेशन तो अब ख़त्म हो गया, अब जनरेशन जी है। जनरेशन जी के लोग जो हैं वो इस बात को समझ गए हैं कि हमने अगर दुनिया में सरवाइव करना है तो हमें अपना देश ही बनाना है। कोई हमारा साथ नहीं देगा जब तक हम स्ट्रांग नहीं होंगे।
थैंक यू सो मच मैम, हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए, इतनी अच्छी और इम्पॉर्टेंट बातें हमारे साथ शेयर करने के लिए, एंड थैंक यू सो मच।
आई एम हैप्पी टू डू व्हाट यू आर asking me to do. Thank you.